Today is the 20th of March 2023, and my plan was that by now this engine would be fully completed. Perhaps not painted, but certainly completed. And it's not. There is a mountain of work still to do. No pipework's in place, the levers that operate the valve gear are not done. One of the valve rods is in the wrong position. The paddle wheels, although they're sort of temporarily nutted together, are not properly fixed together. None of the mechanism that will orientate the paddles has even been started. And all sorts of miscellaneous bits like oilers and things, I haven't done those either. Nor have I done the mechanism to operate the dog clutch. And on and on, and some pipework missing. And on and on and on. The reason for this video is not to show that I've been particularly idle. Unfortunately life got in the way. But it's a long time since I put a video up on this this engine, and I just didn't want anybody that was looking at the series to think that I'd forgotten all about it and I had abandoned the project, which I surely haven't. So to make the expansions links for this excuse me, paddle steamer engine, I need two of them, and they're supposed to be made out of 3/16 thick bright mild steel, and as far as I can work out I ain't got any. I've only got 1/4 inch, so that's going to have to be machined down. And I've done this sort of job before, so years ago I made this sort of device to cut the curved bit on the lathe or by whatever mechanism, and it's very rough and ready, but the idea is that you bolt whatever you want to machine to this plate at the right radius, and by woggling up and down and with a milling cutter you mill the slot. So that's what we're going to do, but the first thing to do is to machine up some 3/16 thick steel, which is a bit of a pain. Well, you never know what you got till you have a proper look. And in the mire deep in one of my cabinets I found some 3/4 inch thick, sorry, 3/16 thick, what I think is some sort of gauge plate, from which I can make these expansion links, I think. Right, I've got the first setup for the first expansion link for this paddle steamer. I made this sort of device years ago for another engine I made. This is a fairly firm fit, so there is resistance. The chuck and the little spigot out of the chuck is just to support the back of the arm against any tendency to displace while I'm drilling and or milling. Can't quite see it, actually I'll have to show this differently, but the part to be profiled has all been marked out and blued, so I know where I'm going, I hope. So we wait to see how we get on. So far I've had 2 goes at trying to mill out the expansion links for this paddle steamer engine. Total disaster, absolutely hopeless, didn't work. So I'm going to have to think of something else. I'm making this cut 1/10 hour deep per pass. Just need to keep the tension on the screw so that it doesn't bind, but can't quite get away from everybody. And this is a 4-flute end mill, which is not really the tool for this job, I don't think, but anyway. When I said 1/10 hour, I mean I'm putting it in 1/10 hour deep at each pass. I think I'm on the final pass, by which I mean, if I got my measurements right, the end mill's gone through the 3/16 plate and has gone about 1/10 thou into this aluminium backing plate. I will see. I have bolted the second blank for these expansion links under the first, screwed them through into the backing plate, and the theory is now that as long as I'm still following this curve, the second one will turn out like the first one. Does that make any sense? I don't know. And all this because I don't trust myself to file properly to a curved line. 2 parts done. Just needs touching up with a file a little bit, smooth some of the dints out, but it's not too bad actually. Dear oh dear. So here are the two, God, I've forgotten what they're called. Anyway, the two links completed, cleaned up. They look a bit chunky to my eye, but before I decide to remove any more metal, I think I'll make the radius rods, whatever they're called, and fit this to the engine and see what happens. There are several ways one could go about making these links, including the use of a faceplate. I have done that with smaller models in the chuck. The only thing on this lathe, which is quite a small lathe, the radius of these links is 5 inches centerline, slightly bigger on the outside of course, and I think 5-inch radius on this lathe method would be pushing my luck, which is why I went to the slightly chaos arrangement that I actually used. A couple of years, well, long time ago, I built a 2-inch scale traction engine and also a 3.5-inch gauge locomotive, long time ago. And I think, I can't remember really, but I think this device was made at that time to make the links for those models, because it's had previous use by the scarring, but to be candid, I can't quite remember. I need some 3/16 wide strip, so I'm having to machine it down carefully from 1/2-inch wide strip. Bit fraught, anyway, we're getting there. This is the last of the 4 eccentric sheaves, drilled and tapped with studs to fix its relevant eccentric rod. A job that I'm pleased to see the back of. Still got quite a lot of work to do on these eccentric rods. They've got to be tapered along their length and trimmed to the correct length ultimately, when I know what that is. And also have, don't know what to call it really, but a kind of build out at the end into which the expansion links will fit. I'm going to probably slightly vary from this old drawing. I think I know of a better way of doing this, but we'll get to that. Anyway, this is a major step forward, getting these things on. Just tightening up a bit. Surprising amount of work in making these lifting links and the forks and the pins and the bearing inside. Anyway, they're done. This is the first trial fit. I made a mistake because by the drawing I've made these rods too short by 1/4 of an inch. Don't ask. I may have to remake these rods at this time, I don't know, but possibly, I only say possibly, I've made the turned ends of the forks for the lifting links. These are slightly over length by approximately 1/4 of an inch, the same amount by which these rods are too short. So whether one will compensate for the other, I do not know, but if they don't, I'll just have to make these again, won't I? I'm not there quite yet. I've roughly made some levers to work the valve gear, the expansion link and whatnot. I have approximately set the eccentrics on this side, but at this time I haven't got around to doing that side, so I shall probably do that about next. If I've got it right, I think the engine in forward motion, i.e. with the boat going forward, the engine is supposed to turn in this direction. I read somewhere that when the boat's going forward, the valve linkage and the expansion link would normally be in the up position. So that's really why I'm saying what I'm saying. And also the obviously I haven't made them yet, but the paddle wheels have a mechanism to ensure that the various paddles, they move slightly, and when they enter the water they enter the water in the vertical position and then will feather as the wheel goes round. And I've yet to confirm it, but if I've read the drawing correctly, I think that implies also that the engine in that state will be turning in that direction. Just to explain my thinking then on the direction of rotation, the paddles enter the water in the vertical position to give maximum push to the boat. In order to do that, the wheel has to turn this way round, and actually I think I've got it wrong. Yeah, I think I've got this wrong actually. I think to do what it's showing on this drawing, this engine should probably go that way. It's not a big deal, but I think it means I've got the links need reversing top to bottom. Oh God, I'm going to have to go lie down and think about this. You'll gather that I know nothing about boats, nothing about paddle steamer engines, and absolutely nothing about absolutely everything. Oh dear. I've set the slide valve on this cylinder so its travel is about equal in either direction. I mean, you can never get them spot on, but sort of to give equal port opening in each direction. The covers of these cylinders have got lots of studs and nuts, and my fat fingers, I keep dropping all the 6PA screws, so in desperation I've made a little nut runner to help me. I didn't have a cap head screw with the right dimensions, so I found a different cap head screw, bashed in a 5mm Allen key to just open the opticon out a bit. Bit of rough knurling on the end, looks horrible, don't matter. And there you have it, a nut runner. Because these 6PA nuts, I think that I've got, are a bit, they're not strictly scale 6PA, they're a bit undersized. They do look neater, but they didn't fit anything that I would normally use to run them on. There's another one of my very iffy setups. So I've got to turn a boss on this bit and then a 1/8 or smaller hole through the middle for the I don't know, is the water inlet or the water outlet, anyway, don't matter, whatever it is. It's running fairly true, not perfect, but the error is minor considering the application. Fingers crossed. According to the drawing, which admittedly I'm having a bit of trouble with, the distance between these flanges or whatever they are on the paddles is supposed to be exactly 2 inches. This is a rough casting, so I've got a bit of an odd job where I'm having to machine the insides of these flanges so that this dimension in fact is 2 inches, because 2 inches is the spacing of the outside of the paddle sheets, so it needs to be something like, I suppose. And the setup for machining this affair is as you can see. A little bit precarious, but it's only soft aluminium, and fingers crossed so far I haven't had any trouble. Just sort of taking 10 thou off at a time and have a bit of a measure up. Maybe it don't come out, but might be a thou under 2 inches, that is, but I'll take it.